Loktar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Orc Mode workout. And today we're doing something a little bit different. I decided to go ahead and flat bench instead of floor press for my dynamic work. Now, I might eventually get over to where I work with bands and everything. I have all the stuff to do it. I have band pegs, which this rack is set up for. I've got a couple different sets of bands. So, I mean, I can always do it if I want to, but I feel like for now, I want a little better specificity of training, right? I want a little better carryover. My bench is my weakest lift. It's my absolute weakest lift in proportion to my body weight. Looking at my other lifts, you see people actually, that's one of the criticisms people make of me in addition to the loose skin or the body fat or whatever else. Their usual criticisms of me are that my bench isn't that good, right? Like whatever, the guy, we've seen him squat over 500, we've seen him, deadlift like 585, whatever it is they'll say, whatever numbers they're aware or not aware of, or my 225 strict press, but they're always like, well, his bench is weak, and that's a fair statement. Out of my big five, my bench is my weakest lift, so I need to put a little extra work into it. Now that doesn't mean I don't try to keep pushing the others. We're going to keep pushing everything up. I'm trying to get as strong as possible at this body weight before I cut again, without gaining weight. That's the goal. And I think I'm doing a decent job of that. So we want to stay 220-ish or a hair under if possible. So that's what I'm trying to do. Stay under there and get as strong as possible. Re-get as strong or stronger than I was at 250 plus when I was really fat last year. And then we'll trim down further, right? And that's the plan. But I know that my bench needs more work. And bench is always harder when you're losing weight or you've lost weight because actual fat helps you bench more. And people need to understand that. The bench press is one of those lifts that being fatter is actually beneficial. Some of the others it's not. Like it's detrimental on the deadlift. Lean guys tend to do really well in terms of relative strength on the deadlift. Like really, really well. Bench press not so much. Being fatter is a big advantage on the bench. So if you're going to be getting leaner over time, bench can be even more of a problem. And it's already my weakest lift. If I lose another 15 pounds of body fat, I better get this bench up. So I also have long arms, which makes the bench a hard lift for me. I've got to fight for every pound, and I really need to specialize in it a bit for a while. It doesn't mean, again, that I don't push my squat and my deadlift up because we're going to push those up. We're going to get that squat back to 500. That is going to happen. And we're going to do it under 220, and then I'm going to cut down to 200 or less and then get it back to 500 again. All right, it's going to happen. There's no question about that. My bench is my weakest lift, and it's disproportionate. Like I put a lot of effort into getting really good at the standing press. I really focused on it, and it paid off. It worked. But my bench needs it, so we're going to do some of my dynamic days, I'm going to focus on the bench so that I get more and more practice on the full range of motion, a little bit of a pause, driving through so we get more first reps on the bench. And then all of my pressing accessory work is going to be geared towards improving my bench. That's why I went with the JM press. It, out of every tricep exercise, tends to have the best carryover to the bench press. It's very bench specific. And my triceps are visually, obviously, the weak link in my musculature. Right? If you guys really analyze and look at my body, it's very obvious from a visual perspective that my triceps are lagging. I can tell when I bench press that they're my weak link in my bench. So I have to get them stronger. And I've got to get the motor pattern down and practicing at the bench. So that's what we're doing. Now, I made a mistake. I got really tied up in some Facebook arguments and stuff while I was between sets, and I lost count of my sets. I was going to do 12 doubles. I ended up doing 14. And it's because I tend to film the stuff and I don't put it all on the computers. So I was filming them and then I drug them all over in one block. And when I brought the files over, I realized I had 14, not 12. And that just happens sometimes. I got distracted, and that's okay. But I went a little lighter than I wanted to. I wanted to start at 275, but I did the math and realized I better start for the speed work at 265, right? 265. And it went good because they were all fast. I felt like that 14th set, though, it felt a little slower and sloppy, and then I realized it's because I had done so many sets. It was starting to get sloppy at that point. So I kind of exceeded what I needed to do. So I think we'll just taper up the speed work from here. And if necessary, I will go over and do band work later, right? I'll do band work for dynamic. But I wanted to do the speed work with this. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to hit a bench next week, right? I test my max bench coming up next week. So this is a real good time to start adding the pause bench for my dynamic day instead of the floor press. And I've got a lot of mileage out of the floor press. Don't get me wrong. Like I like the floor press, but I feel like I'm going to get a little bit better specificity on the bench. And for as far as fatigue management, I have other lifts for my big lifts that I can do for my higher volume, right? Like I'm keeping my recovery in check by doing box squats instead of back squats for all that volume. Working with that sumo deadlift, with a slight deficit because I'm in boots, things like that, right? That's going to help keep my fatigue management a little bit better. And I think it's going to give me a little more recovery to focus on the bench press. So I'm going to work the bench more. So we're going to work bench volume, which means, again, at least 12 sets every week for this. It means I don't need to do it on my off days either. I can do other stuff on the max effort days, even if I don't do flat bench for the max effort day. I can do other exercises. That'll give me a little more versatility just for the strength work there. And I can really put my efforts into this dynamic day. So I'll get a lot of practice on first reps on the bench. And that'll have good carryover. And then all the JM presses, which I'm going to hammer, I'm beating that into the ground. Doing a ton of volume on it because I know it will bring up the weak link for my bench. And it should sort that out. It's going to help tremendously. Now, I did a couple of exercises shirtless today, and some people are going to ask why. Well, I don't have a perfect physique, and I know that. And one of the things that gets brought up, people always talk about my terrible genetics, and what they actually don't understand is that they're basing that on the fact that I've got loose skin around my waist. Like, my DEXA scans weren't fake. I legitimately have 17% body fat. All of my body fat is subcutaneous. I don't have any internally. I'm very, very skewed in those ratios, which was interesting. Like the technicians thought that was fascinating. Like that they even noted that that's fairly rare for someone to have so little fat around their organs, even at the body fat percentage I have. So I carry all of mine under my skin. And it's disproportionately on my lower back and other areas like that. So that's just where I've stored it. And a lot of it, the reason it's there is because I have loose skin from gaining 100 pounds of body fat. I gained 100 pounds of fat while I was sick and disabled. And so it makes the skin a little droopier in that area, and the fat tends to pull down towards that area a little bit where my skin is looser still. So it's there. Obviously, look at my upper back and stuff, right? I'm not carrying a lot of fat up there. Look at my legs. They're reasonably lean. So it has to do with where it's kind of stored, and that's just from me having been obese. I got really sick, and I had a disorder that elevates cortisol and everything else. Like, that's all in my medical records. I spent 10 months in bed. I couldn't train for 3 years, and then I came back. I lost 100 pounds of fat. So that would be my point. You get people who look at my loose skin and be like, how are you qualified to give fitness advice? Look at the loose skin I have around my waist and love handle area. I lost 100 pounds of body fat. How many people out there coached themselves, do you know, for 100 pounds of fat loss? How many people coached themselves from being in bed, 10 months in bed, learning to walk again, and then getting an invite to WPC Worlds in powerlifting? I'm going to say that qualifies me quite a bit to give advice. Again, 100 pounds of fat loss, self-coached, no one helped me with that. No one helped me with that. I did it on my own. So I think that uniquely qualifies it. And so no, I'm not going to stand there and be ashamed of the fact that I've got loose skin. And you guys will see it when I do my chin-ups, because I'm not going to have the belt on. You'll see it around my flank area and love handle area. I've got loose skin and I still hairy fat there. Because I'm at 17% body fat, and I carry all of it under my skin. My visceral fat was less than half a pound on my DEXA scan. So I carry it all under my skin. So I have over 30 pounds of fat still on my body. It is what it is. I'll diet down later again, lose more of it. Just don't want to gain any for now, and I'm not gaining any, and that's fine. We're going to try to stay at this body weight for a while and get strong and then trim more fat down. Not that worried about it. But, the thing is, people want to always shame me for that stuff, right? And it's not something to be ashamed of. It's a sign that I've actually overcome some things. And I think it makes me very qualified to give advice. That alone, I lost 100 pounds of fat on my own. No one helping me. No coach, no personal trainer, no dietitian. Just me. And we did chin up. So I did that 8 sets of 185 for the press. And I focused on staying strict because that was one of the things that worried me. I didn't like that I had a little bit of leg bend when I did that 225 last week for the max, and I want to get that down to where it's super strict next time. So I'm going to practice that more and more with the volume work. Get into that groove of not using any leg drive. But yeah, so then we did chin-ups, and I'm trying to focus on my chin-ups a little more. That's why I pulled the rows out on this volume day, and I'm doing more weighted chins instead of rows, because I do like the chin-up. I think the chin-up is an extremely valuable exercise, and because I'm doing so much pulling and I want to do so much deadlifting, I don't need the rows. I don't really benefit from the rows, so I can be a little more upper body focused and get a little more bicep and everything else with these chin-ups, which is, again, one of my big fives, and this will carry over to getting better at the exercise and getting more practice at it. And you need middle and upper back exercises. You need these. You absolutely need them, even for your benching and your deadlifting and everything else. But the chin-up is just a fantastic all-around exercise. I like it. And I've done periods of time where I didn't do it. I've gotten pretty strong at it, but it is one of my main lifts. And again, you guys can see, I mean, I do pretty full range of motion on it. I'm not just using that weight. I also eat and drink and everything before I do this. So my scale weight goes up by the time I'm at this point in my workouts. And then I leave my boots on and everything because I'm not that worried. I'm not trying to maximize, the most plates that I have when I'm doing this. I'm trying to just get the work done. And then after that, we get over and we do the JM presses. And we're improving at the JM presses also. That is one of my biggest bench accessories right now. It's my biggest bench accessory because my triceps are my weak link. If my triceps get bigger and stronger, my bench will go up because they are limiting my bench press. And it's obvious looking at me. It's obvious where I feel it when I bench. My chest and delts are not limiting my bench press at all. It's my triceps. And this is one of the best time-proven tricep exercises. It has great carryover to your bench press. It's a bench-specific tricep exercise. So not only is it going to help thicken my triceps up, it's going to do so in a way that has performance carryover because it's a multi-joint exercise. And so I've switched over even to hair this time to using the exact same bench width, grip width that I use on my bench press. And for those who don't really understand, the JM press is like a combination between a closed grip bench press and a skull crusher. It's like mixing the exercises into a multi-joint lift. And so it's way better than just doing a skull crusher for bringing up your bench press specifically, even though it might not work the long head as much as some skull crushers can. And so I'm using the same weight I used last time, because last time was a 5-pound bump and it was really hard. When I got to that 5th set of 10, I was struggling. All right, this one, the first 4 sets, I really felt a burn, but I felt like I had more in the tank. So for the 5th set, this time I went for a little bit of an AMRAP, and instead of struggling to get a 10th, having to take a breather to get my 10th rep, I managed to squeeze out 12. So that's progress. I mean, as you guys got to remember, when I started doing this, I was running 20 pounds lighter. And I cranked out 12 reps now on my last set with 20 pounds more than I started. I can only do about 6 or 7 with 20 pounds less. So I am getting stronger at it. And I have a goal set. And that goal is to get to where I can do sets of 10 with a full plate per side. So it'll be 135 pounds with a 45 on each side, my blue plates. And when we get there, I feel like that should be at a point to where my bench should be going up. But again, we got today some really good bench work in, right? I got 14 sets, dynamic bench with a pause. And we got a slight PR on the JM press. And I'm really hoping that this is going to translate to an improved bench press when we test it next week. You know, I'm confident about it. I feel good about that fact. It may not be a big increase, right? It may not, but I'm going to see where it's at. And I know that my bench is going to go up. If I only go up 5 pounds, hey, that's great. It's only 5 pounds. If I can get 10 pounds, a 10 pound increase over the last time, that would be even better. If I could squeeze something like 15, that would be phenomenal. I'm not going to bank on 15, but I'm not going to leave it out of the question. But you know what? I'm not going to be unhappy with 5 because progress is progress. If I could add 5 pounds here, 5 pounds there to my bench, eventually that's going to add up to where it's no longer a weak link. And we get there by putting in the work, right? But I'm doing more volume now on the benching end. And my main accessory is getting stronger, consistently stronger. The most important accessory for my weak link. So I feel like that's a good sign. We're moving in the right direction. So we got 12 here, and that finishes up the workout. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.